Okay, thank you, everyone. This is regarding bill number A4045. Please read it for the record.
A4045 makes various changes to the process for access to government records and appropriates $8 million. There are committee amendments to this bill that require records custodians to assist requesters who are unable to find a record on a public website after the custodian has provided the initially provided directions. The requester has 7 days after the custodian provides the initial directions to request further assistance. After the request is received by the custodian has 7 days to provide the requested assistance. The committee amendments also require notification to the Superior Court or to the Government Records Council of the timely production of records in order for the matter to be dismissed without prejudice and to entitle a requester to a reasonable attorney's fee.
Okay. First I'm going to do is I'm going to read into the record all of the opposed, but no need to testify because they have to be on the record. John T. Mackey, League of American Family. Margaret Thurkin, second. Charlene Walker, Faith in New Jersey. Barry Kushner, Hudson County Central Labor Council. Again, Barry Kushner, IFPTE, Local 194. Sonny Vargas, Communications Worker of America, CWA. Jordan Walton, New Jersey Broadcasters Association. Michelle Libertad, CWA, Local 1036. Ava Lynch, it doesn't say who she's with, but opposed, no need to testify. Rick Bly, LWB, in Morristown. Kevin Coughlin. Thomas Orala, New Jersey Black Economic Coalition. Caitlin Roger Kralowitz, Planned Parenthood Action Food of New Jersey. Yannick Wood, New Jersey Institute of Social Justice. Susan Hogg, Civic Story. Doug O'Malley, Environmental New Jersey. Jennifer Hawkins, New Jersey State Society of PAS. Phoebe Holzinger, New Jersey Council of Jewish Women. Carol Satchel. Eric Cruz Morales, New Jersey Alliance of Immigrant Justice. Noel Tamrinchin. If I misspell your name, I'm misspeaking in my deeply apologize. Eric Benson, Irving, New Jersey. Eva Manini. Warren Albright, Garden State Equality. Stacy Berger, Housing and Community Development, North New Jersey. Stephen Lestington, League of Women Voters. Elizabeth Morgan, League of Women Voters, Lawrence Township. Nicole Pitt, League of Women Voters, Lawrence Township. Nikki Baker, New Jersey WEC. Molly Cleary, Clean Water Action. Amy Goldsmith, King's Water Action. Rick By, League of Women Voters, Morristown. Ada Lynch, League of Women Voters, Morristown. Nancy Levine, League of Women Voters of New Jersey. Patrick Nolans, United Council of Academics of NJIT. Dick Tisson with AAUP-PHSNJ. Patricia Darby, New Jersey 11 for Change. Bridget Devon, HPAE. Okay. So that was the list of opposed, no need to testify. This is in favor, no need to testify. Jonathan Kushner, New Jersey School Board Association. John Benabio, New Jersey Association of Counties. So there are a lot of people that are going to testify. If I can, I'm going to ask two to come up at the same time to expedite time, since there's so many people who want to speak. Joe Stirrup, Asbury Press, wants to testify. And Ravi and Andrea, New Brunswick today. Say what I said at the beginning of the meeting. Please hold your testimony for 3 minutes, because we have a lot of people who would like to talk. Please push the button. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joe Strupp. I'm a reporter at the Asbury Park Press covering local news. I've been a journalist for more than 35 years at a variety of news outlets on both the East and West Coast, as well as Washington, D.C. During that time, I have utilized both the Federal Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, and New Jersey's own Open Public Records Act, OPRA. The proposal you're considering to limit many elements of OPRA and create new restrictions is tantamount to limiting and restricting democracy that is provided in our own Constitution. As I understand it, the proposal, among other things, would restrict access to emails and calls by exempting logs of both and requiring requesters to list specific subject matter and discrete and limited time period, and identify an employee by name whose email must be searched. Now, reporters often seek a broad spectrum of emails and calls so as to include all elements related to a potential news subject. Sometimes it is not clear what is in the emails that warrants news until they are reviewed. The change also mandates that requesters use a form of the custodian's choosing. Many governments have their own forms and portals, but most only require a letter to be written. This is merely bureaucracy for the sake of making it more difficult to submit an OPRA. Right now, a simple letter is an option that makes the process much easier, as it should be. You would also create a task force to examine existing public access to police records and recommend changes. The legislation specifies that a chair would be the Attorney General himself or a designee. Now, current policies allow for public records, police records, to be withheld or redacted as needed. To put such decisions in the hands of more law enforcement officials, many of whom may not want elements of a public record or police record release, perpetuate secrecy further. You also would prevent records requesters from directly challenging denial of access in Superior Court. Instead, requesters who have their appeals denied would go to a government records council. You would also eliminate the requirement that a public agency wrongfully denying access to public records pay requesters legal fees if they have to hire a lawyer to win access to the records. Both of these are clear channels that reporters and private citizens utilize when they are denied. I myself, when I covered the city of Maplewood and South Orange years ago, had to sue the South Orange Maplewood School Board twice in order to get access to records that were denied to me. The only reason a lawyer would take that case is because they were assured that they would have their fees reimbursed, as they were in both cases. It is difficult enough to find a lawyer to take these cases because so many offer little reward. It is truly a labor of love. Removing this monetary fee provision would wipe out a large pool of potential attorneys on these cases, while also dropping a key reason that public agencies have for following the law: that fear of facing legal action and having to pay a lawyer's fee when they lose. The Open Public Records Act is a vital tool not only for journalists but for the public at large. It is regularly used by us to find specific records and data, as well as do broad searches and see what may come out of a group of emails, documents, or invoices. I recently did a Google News search under records obtained through Open Public Records Act and found nearly 2,000 in New Jersey just the past few years that relied on such records for news. Among them were stories that I myself did at the Asbury Park Press on police brutality, superintendents who left office and were being paid while still out, public records about increased violence at a certain school district, and of course, the attorney in the Lakewood School Board making more than $1 million a year, which was revealed due to my access to invoices that he had provided. Please reconsider this dangerous and unconstitutional action before you damage an already fragile state of public access to news in the state of New Jersey. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Robbie Pandia, and I first learned of the Open Public Records Act while working as a reporter for New Brunswick Today. I covered the law and public safety section, and I found it shocking that I could easily email New Brunswick police and receive crime reports. We would use these crime reports to draw insights about the community, the types of crimes that were happening, the wards that they were happening in, and we would create a monthly crime log. I believe this was a great service to the community of New Brunswick and allowed us to keep New Brunswick police accountable and make sure they're doing the best they can to keep the community safe. OPRA may not be perfect, but any reform that compromises transparency is unacceptable. Specifically, reversing the current structure in which towns pay legal fees for erroneous denials and putting that burden on the requesters has no justification. If commercial requesters are the issue, then that issue should be addressed in a more clear and concise manner without dismantling OPRA's framework. This bill will hurt reporters and activists, but most importantly, the citizens who play a crucial role in keeping government accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next to Richard Visa, New Jersey Press. And Lauren James Weir, New Jersey Press. Also from the same press.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee.
Push the button.
My name, as the chairman indicated, is Richard Veza. I am the Government Affairs Chair of the New Jersey Press Association. Before that, I spent 47 years as a journalist working in New Jersey at various newspapers. Some of the districts here on this committee, I worked at the newspapers in your district. I finished my career in 2021 as editor and publisher of the Star Ledger, the state's largest newspaper. And I sit here today surprised, concerned, and saddened because of the direction my state is moving. You've heard some of the details about this bill, and I'm not going to talk about those. I'm going to talk about an issue that I think exists here and needs to be talked about. We are going with this bill from a government that's fairly transparent at this point to one where the operations of government are going to be darkened, not only to the press and the newspapers and to the websites, but to the citizens also. And that's all we are, conduit of information to the citizens of the state. And in my 47 years, I watched your predecessors, legislators in in this State House created the Open Public Records Act as they opened up New Jersey to its citizens. And they had opposition. They had opposition within their ranks. There was opposition in the Democratic Party. I recall. Yet, a core of legislators had the courage, the political courage, to move ahead and pass the OPRA. A4045 are carefully crafted bills to make it easier for government officials, and that's where the push for this bill has come from. Government officials who find it expensive to have an OPRA, find it cumbersome and a lot of work, and a government closed to the people is always more efficient. It's going to run a lot cheaper. Okay, I'll get to the good part. We were originally told that NJPA was going to have input into this bill. And we kept on calling and asking about when we would see the bill. And I wish I could use another word. I wish I could say we were misled. But we were lied to. We were lied to, plain and simple. And that's how 4045 starts out with the big lie. And what is happening here with New Jersey, you just passed the resolution condemning Alabama. And what is happening, we are turning New Jersey into the Florida and Alabama of the North. And that's, Mr. Chairman, I know you don't want to hear this. I know you don't want to hear this. This is tough stuff to hear. It's controversial stuff, but it's you know, we are stripping the citizens of this state of their right to know.
Thank you for your opinion.
Okay, well, I'll distribute my full remarks to the media, and
I would recommend you speak to the prime sponsor of it, who you know.
Yeah.
Right? You know the prime sponsor.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's what I would recommend.
Well, it's hard when we turn phone calls.
This isn't going to be a conversation between you and I.
I'm on the do not talk
this.
list.
I'm going to go to the next person. Lauren, please.
Good morning. My name is Lauren James Weir. I'm an attorney at Gibbons, co-counsel to, and a lobbyist for the New Jersey Press Association, or NJPA. NJPA's mission is to help news media in this state remain editorially strong, financially sound, and free from outside influence. It pursues these goals on behalf of its members and the people of New Jersey. I'm here to express NJPA's disappointment with the rushed manner in which this bill is being pushed through the legislature, to highlight some of the problematic provisions of the bill, and to reiterate the plea that NJPA has made time and time again, which is for a seat at the table, to talk to legislators, to talk to stakeholders, and construct amendments to such a valuable piece of legislation of immense importance to the public. NJPA acknowledges that there have been concerns raised about OPRA by stakeholders across the state, and understands that lawmakers want to address those concerns. But fast-tracking this bill, which lacks any input from stakeholders like NJPA, and which totally obliterates the current Open Public Records Act, just isn't the way. Rather, striking the appropriate balance between the public's right of access and the real-life practical effects of that right of access on custodians and on government agencies requires careful consideration. NJPA's position paper, which has been distributed to the committee previously, outlines some of the most problematic provisions of the bill, which remove from public access currently accessible records, which make additional hurdles for requesters to jump through in order to gain access, and which make wrongful denials nearly impossible for the everyday citizen to challenge. By way of example, under the current amendments of the bill, logs of telephone calls, emails, or texts are no longer available. Electronic and paper calendars are unavailable. Metadata, email addresses, telephone numbers, draft material would no longer be available. Access to emails would be much more difficult given the heightened requirements in the bill. And submission of record requests would be required to be made in the form adopted by the custodian, which is contrary to existing case law. And the biggest blow to transparency contained in the bill is the replacement of OPRA's mandatory fee shift with a discretionary one. This change alone would drastically change the landscape of public access in New Jersey. Without the ability of a prevailing requester, who is someone a court has determined was wrongfully denied access to government records, to recoup the attorney's fees that he or she has expended in challenging that wrongful denial, results in fewer challenges being made, critically important records being kept from the public, and this state's long-standing tradition of government transparency being compromised. As always, NJPA is ready, willing, and able to work with stakeholders and lawmakers in contemplating ways to address the concerns that have been raised and to work to deal with the practical issues that OPRA presents while also preserving government transparency and the public's right to access. So for those reasons, NJPA opposes this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ellen C. Murray, LBW of Monmouth County. And Jean Netzberg, LBW, Greater Princeton area. Good morning.
Good morning, committee members. I am Evelyn C. Murphy, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Monmouth County, representing over 300 Monmouth and Ocean County members in legislative districts 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 30, who are appalled by this attempt to rush through the changes to OPRA, cutting provisions that we rely on every day. We strongly object both to the provisions of the bill and to the undemocratic process launched with today's hearings. Everyone has the right to participate fully in the legislative process. Scheduling simultaneous hearings in the Senate and Assembly has forced each interested person to choose which committee they will address, severely limiting public input and participation. The text of this bill was released less than a week ago. There are sections we have yet to fully interpret, including implications for public access to contact information for candidates in municipal, county, and state elections. The county clerks of Ocean and Monmouth provide the information following different processes. How will their work be affected by the bill's provisions that appears to require standard forms? It isn't clear to us whether candidate email addresses and phone numbers will still be publicly available at all. Our league relies on this information to invite candidates to participate in public forums and to upload responses to our Vote 411 online voter guide. We do this work to provide information that empowers public participation in our government, a democratic value that we call on this committee to share by voting no on this legislation. We are also concerned about provisions that could lead to our members being unjustly and inaccurately accused of harassment when we submit multiple OPRA requests. Our members depend on OPRA to access details underlying local decisions that affect our daily lives. Finding the right information often requires multiple requests. Will our members be labeled nuisances and lose their OPRA rights entirely? Will they find that responses are delayed so long that the information is no longer useful? There are too many unanswered questions and major issues with this bill. Please vote no.
My name is Jean Netzberg. I live in Hamilton Township, Mercer County. I'm speaking to you as both a private citizen and as the convener spokesperson, also known as president, of the Greater Princeton Area League of Women Voters. We believe that our form of government operates best when it operates in the open. Reducing access to records in New Jersey confirms the suspicions of those citizens who see only corruption and political secrecy in our state. I retired from the New Jersey State Judiciary Administrative Office of the Courts in 2017, and I am well aware that the judiciary as a separate branch of government does not fall under OPRA, but I was involved in several IT projects at the judiciary related to records retention and access. When I left, we were working on improving the process by digitizing records in archival PDF format and storing them in a searchable archival database. And I have seen the costs of this storing and retrieving requested information, but I suggest that the state should be solving these issues by automating the process further rather than by restricting access. I would like to understand why the committee is considering these restrictive changes. Is the goal to reduce the burden on staff and the cost of record storage? If so, improve our systems with public electronic access. Is the goal to reduce the burden imposed by commercial services that profit from searching state records? Update the archival systems so that these companies can perform the searches themselves. I have seen staff from title search companies spending hours using multiple name spellings and other data variations to search for judgments in the public access screens of the judiciary judgment system. This truly is a service they deserve to be paid for. Provide public electronic access for as many records as possible, along with instructions on use, so these companies are able to do more of the searching themselves. Our office is being inundated with large numbers of frivolous requests, resulting in more cost to the state and a slower process for all requests. Please don't penalize all citizens because of the actions of a few. Increase digitization of records, starting at the municipal level, and reduce the burden on staff without restricting access to the public. I am proud to have worked for the people of the state of New Jersey, but I hate the image of corruption that our state is often associated with. I beg you not to tarnish the integrity of our state government by limiting access to government records. The government isn't perfect, but restricting access gives the appearance of covering up and hiding its actions. Honest mistakes will sometimes be made, but covering them up enlarges both the mistakes and citizen mistrust. I urge you to vote no on A4045 and work to improve access and reduce the costs instead.
Steve Bullock, Jersey City.
He's downstairs, he's downstairs.
Okay. He's opposed. Veriano, Audio, New Jersey. And Scott Mackey, NPI, Consumer Data Initiative. Yep.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trevor Ferrigno. All the people here have already spoke, have brought all of the logical, well-thought-out points of why this bill should not be voted yes, as it's currently written. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. Since becoming more aware and involved of the actions that take place in this State House, I've become more and more disgusted and disenfranchised at what goes on here. I've seen many of you on many other bills talk about being advocates for the rights of the people, proclaiming to be doing what is good for them. But if you vote for this bill, you're doing nothing but further widening the divide between yourselves, the political ruling class, and us, the constituents whom you plunder to fund the salaries which you've conveniently doubled as the first order of business in the 2024 legislative session. Voting yes on A4045 while looking past its obvious pitfalls, the risk of unintended consequences, and the outright intentional limitations that it poses on the checks and balances which the people retain over your actions is not only a violation of your oath, but it is a disgrace to your constituents, the state, and to yourselves. Let me make something very clear. When I look at all of you on this committee, I don't see Democrats or Republicans. I see a single group of cowards cloaking themselves behind the illusion of a two-party system. When the chips are down and the time comes to vote, you don't do the right thing. You do what you're told to do, and your laziness shows in the language of this bill. You hold sessions like this not to deliberate or debate, as you are elected to do, but to pander and to perform for the peasants to watch while you rip the teeth from our mouths and further insulate your betrayals from public scrutiny. As you walk into these chambers, you bring with you marching orders. Orders which are not from the people that you claim to serve, but instead from the party leaders who only serve themselves. As you walk out, you leave behind your integrity and your honor. Hypocrites, all of you, who claim to uphold the law but would deny redress to your people through this bill. Boo and hiss, I say to you, while the hopes that one day you gaze in the mirror and look upon yourselves with the same disgust which you look upon me and the rest of the constituents of New Jersey. As I've said in my last testimony in this House, if you vote in favor of this bill, you will make it obvious that this State House is a place where the privilege of the ruling class comes to thrive and the rights of the people come to die. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Scott Mackey from MBI Government Affairs here today on behalf of the Consumer Data Industry Association. We're a national trade association that represents consumer reporting agencies and similar industries. We're here to talk a little bit about this bill. I'll be very brief. We provide a written comment for you guys to look at as well. But briefly, there are some unintended consequences we believe that will stem from this bill. Specifically, the definition of data brokers, which is sort of a new term of art that exists, and it stemmed from Vermont, specifically sort of lists anybody that sells data as a data broker. Realize that credit reporting agencies collect data, and it is used for legitimate public purposes. It is used for you to get a car loan. It is used for you to get a bank loan. It is used for you to get a credit card. We need public information, home addresses, etc., to be able to verify and prevent fraud, and to be able to make sure that the information we have is accurate and complete. We have been doing this for a very long time. Ultimately, we believe that this bill might even put an additional onus on small municipalities, as individual businesses now will go to obtain information that historically they've obtained from our members. So it might end up resulting in more work for the county clerks than currently is thought. Ultimately, we want a system that works. We want a system that results in fair credit and accurate credit and information that is very transparent. We have that right now. We're afraid that by passing this bill and basically negatively impacting us and us alone, because we sell data to other parties, we can bring it all together, and it is true, we sell it to other entities, but we sell it to entities like governments, state governments, municipal governments. We use it for things like ensuring that VIN numbers, when a car is recalled, can easily be identified and that information sent to that consumer, so they know there might be a problem. All of these things are very important things for the public and ultimately result in a better system. A system that's safer, a system where we can go after fraud and people that are cheating on their taxes, or go after people that aren't paying their alimony or child support. All of that type of data is data that we are able to obtain and use for both private business and the public good. I just ask you to reconsider some of these as you move this bill forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, next two we're going to testify is Liz Blank, New Jersey Citizens Action, and Wynn Long, I think you live in New Jersey.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Liz Glenn. I'm with New Jersey Citizen Action. Thanks to the committee for holding this hearing today and hearing from all of us. As many of you may know, New Jersey Citizen Action, we work to serve low to moderate income residents here. We do many direct services to folks, helping them from everything from their taxes to enrolling to affordable health care, and we advocate on their behalf. We have here a government by and for the people. As representatives, you're accountable to us and the people here in the room today. As a society, we should be striving to improve our democracy by increasing transparency, not taking steps backwards to hide public information, make it more difficult. We all have a right to obtain this information. This bill, S2930, A4045, undermines fundamental democratic values, as does this process today. We need to stop holding committee hearings at the same exact time. It dilutes our voices and it hampers our ability. Advocates need their voices heard. We're all here on behalf of not just ourselves, but as many others. There are, as folks already pointed out, there's a number of problems with this bill. I don't need to go into details here. But really the main underlying issue is that these are, this is unnecessarily makes it difficult for the general public, for ordinary citizens to obtain information that they have a right to access. As folks already pointed out, it creates roadblocks and hurdles. And everyday people, let alone, we have many people here who have some sense of this system, explaining how much difficult it is. Imagine for ordinary citizens how much harder this is for them to obtain the information that they have a right to access. We all rely on access to this important work. As public advocates, journalists, we rely on it to inform the public and advocate on these critical issues in the public interest. It feels as though this is by design to cut us out and to keep us all in the dark, so that government officials, the police, public agencies can go about doing their business without worrying about the pesky public getting involved. But we have a right to uncover abuses of power, understand our public exposures to, to any kind of environmental hazards. We have a right to hold our public officials and police accountable for their actions. So this is a shameful attempt to silence our voices, and I implore you to please vote no. Do your role as public citizens, or remember that you're here by the people, for the people, and accountable to us. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Wynn Kuhn. I'm the Executive Director of Action Together New Jersey. I'm here speaking as an immigrant to this great country and as an advocate for democracy. So I don't want to reiterate what the great speakers spoke in front of me, but as an immigrant from Vietnam, I have to tell you there are red flags here that you need to acknowledge. When so many members of the press are here sounding the alarms, I think you should listen. When you have lines of people straight to the road trying to get into security to talk about this bill, split between this room and downstairs, I think you should listen. So, I didn't have these rights in Vietnam. My family helped Americans during the Vietnam War. All my uncles were sent to re-education camps after the Americans withdrew because we helped American troops. So democracy is in my blood. It was through OPRA, and I want to bring out two things that OPRA does right, that you guys can do right. By the way, I'm also speaking as an unaffiliated voter. I only affiliate to vote in your closed primaries, which should be open, but that's another conversation. With that said, as an American citizen, I have to say that the Ballot Cure Act I got through OPRA. Through OPRA, I realized and I saw that from 2005 to 2017, there were ballots that were rejected that no one knew about, and I got it through OPRA, and I co-wrote the Ballot Cure Act. Through the Freedom of Information, through the state of Colorado, I found out that 3 out of 4 voters use ballot drop boxes, and we didn't have any in New Jersey, and I said, we need to get that New Jersey in order for our citizens to vote. Through OPRA, I found out that there were 17-year-olds, about 23,000 a year, who qualified to vote in the November elections, and so the new Voter Empowerment Act, that's going to be enacted effective January 26th, is through OPRA. So all these things we can fix within OPRA, but there are good things that we can do. And there are good things that we need to keep doing. For example, did you know the top category for voter rejection and vote by mail is this other category? What's this other category? I don't know. I need OPRA to go through each county to find out who was rejected, why were their votes disenfranchised, why were they rejected, and that's through OPRA. So there's a lot of good things that we want to keep. There are things we want to improve on, but I think it requires all the voices from all the stakeholders in this system, and I implore you to vote no on this bill. Thank you so much.
Okay, the next speakers are J.J. Mistretta and Joseph Anditis.
Yeah,
Sorry,
close enough.
Thank you for allowing us here to speak today. I just want to say something up front, and I don't want to offend anyone, but this is a dog of a bill, okay? It's democracy is at stake here. I'm just a regular citizen. I'm not as articulate or smart as the other speakers that spoke, and I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just generalizing. I'm here today to speak for myself, but not really. I'm here to speak for every citizen and every taxpayer, asking you to do the right thing for your constituents. OPRA should not be lessened or restricted. We need more transparency and sunlight. A lot of these government agencies, from municipalities to school boards to businesses, on up to state, environment, whatever it is, they get a little lazy. They don't want to do their job, okay? And they don't want to be made to look like fools when constructive citizens come up with information that they should be using. Those of us that are here today are here and only want transparency on the issues so that we can be better informed citizens. A lot of things are done behind closed doors and never see the light of day without the public having any input. Used to be in the old days, I don't know if you remember, but we had tons of newspapers. We had press.
I remember.
20 years ago, I was at meetings all over the place, the township, the this, the Board of Ed, everything. We had plenty of press. It was wonderful. They informed us. That's what the press did, the free press. They make us all better citizens, me and you, okay? That is not existent now. That's why the people in this country are so disenfranchised, so disgusted with government, because they feel everything is blocked against us, okay? You are supposed to be our representatives. You have to do your job and represent us and shield us and protect us from maybe some lazy officials that don't want to do theirs, okay? We all need to be better citizens. I know your jobs are difficult. I know that. I know you get pulled from a lot of directions. I understand that. But this is a no-brainer for the public and democracy. Be our heroes and let the limited press we have left say, whether it's tomorrow or next week, gee, the New Jersey legislation got it right. They sided with the public. Choose sunlight and transparency over more stringent restrictions. Vote no on this dog of a bill. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Anditis, and I'm testifying today as a resident of New Jersey and as a journalist. In my job, I work as the Associate Director of the Center for Cooperative Media at Montclair State University. And I've spent the last decade dedicating myself, as well as our organization, to supporting journalism in New Jersey. And I'm quite familiar with the impact of OPRA, both on my own life and on the work of my colleagues and myself. Today, I stand before you, or sit before you, to express my concerns as a private citizen and as a lifelong resident of New Jersey and a 7-year veteran of the New Jersey Army National Guard. OPRA has long been vital for democratic accountability, and this bill, of course during Sunshine Week of all weeks, would restrict access to crucial records, it would hinder investigative journalism, it would shield government actions from scrutiny. Specifically, removing the mandatory fee shifting provision would deter citizens from challenging improper denials of public records, undermining accountability. Proposed exemptions for email and call records would complicate requests and obscure vital information, hindering public understanding of government activities. And the creation of a police records task force with skewed representation raises serious concerns about transparency in policing. Not to mention the rushed legislative process risks unintended consequences, as seen in past instances. A prior speaker made a great point about also holding these hearings at the same time. It's very clever. Instead, I urge you to collaborate with stakeholders to strengthen public access to information that is essential for our communities and for our residents. You know, we heard people talk in supporting this bill. We've heard people talk about this. It'll save taxpayer money, but time and time again, study after study after study shows that more accountability, more transparency, more oversight, specifically from journalists and local journalists in particular, leads to less corruption, less abuse, less waste, and more savings for New Jersey communities and taxpayers. So please, please kill this bill and work with us to help preserve New Jersey's legacy of open government and democratic integrity. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next speakers are Brian Sachs, Rutgers, PT, LLC, AAT, lots of initials. Great. And Dr. Rebecca Gibbons.
Thank you, Chairman.
Just push the button till it lights up. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chairman and committee members, and to echo the last speaker, I wish everyone a happy National Sunshine Week. My name is Brian Sachs. I'm the president of the Rutgers Adjunct Faculty Union. With me is Becky Gibbon, General Vice President of Rutgers AAUP, AFT. We're here not only to represent the nearly 3,000 adjunct instructors at Rutgers, but also the 6,000 faculty, staff, and grad workers represented by Rutgers AAUP, AFT, and the 1,300 medical and health science faculty at Rutgers, who are represented by AAUP, BHS, and AFT. We all stand united in opposition to A4045, and we stand in opposition because Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, already suffers from a lack of accountability and transparency. This bill in its current form would only make that problem worse. At Rutgers, our unions not only use OPRA for collective bargaining and to derive information that's necessary to alleviate gender and campus pay inequities, we also use it more broadly to hold Rutgers accountable to the public and to the student body that it serves. The committee should be aware that Rutgers Central Administration routinely evades our requests for documents as part of a larger effort to shield itself from public scrutiny, as with its recent effort to limit the number of members of the public who can speak at Board of Governors meetings, just 12 people. I wanted to offer just 2 examples of serious issues that were uncovered by OPRA searches in recent years. The first of which was millions of dollars in previously unknown bonuses for top administration that were discovered during the pandemic era, and perhaps even more infamously, a $250 million debt that Rutgers accumulated, subsidizing its athletics program. On this last discovery, according to NorthJersey.com, and I quote, Rutgers has been reporting those loans as revenue contrary to NCAA guidelines, artificially inflating the athletic department's earnings, and concealing the true budget deficit from the students, their parents, and taxpayers who pay the bills. Now, neither of these stories, and many others, would have come to light if the proposed version of OPRA that is before you today were law. If our unions or members of the public currently have to spend thousands of dollars in legal fees to throw sunshine on a repeat violator like Rutgers, then under this version of the bill, requests simply won't be made and accountability will be lost. As things stand today, without these changes that would weaken OPRA, our unions have had to sue Rutgers several times in just the last 2 years, just to get basic financial documents when we're doing things like bargain contracts. I want to emphasize that these lawsuits, they only occurred after, in one instance, more than 8 requests for extensions that we granted, and 6 months of time had elapsed. It's not just our unions either that suffer from these slow walking tactics. You've heard reporters have had to sue or threatened to sue Rutgers as well when they want information to write important stories. I want to also note one other thing here, that Rutgers is on record. They've admitted publicly that they try to dodge OPRA's requirements. If you look at a piece from NewJersey.com about how Rutgers crashed the Big Ten, subtitle of which is "The Untold Story Behind the Scarlet Knights' Secret Mission to Join the Richest and Most Powerful Conference in College Athletics," we see that Rutgers admitted that their employees try to classify documents as drafts in order to evade OPRA. And again, this version of the bill would make things even worse. The capper on that story is that when they had struck a deal, the league kept the loan copy of the agreement so that it couldn't be subject to a request like this.
Mr. Sachs,
Sure, simply put, we need a stronger OPRA law. We don't need a weaker OPRA law. And that's so that we can continue to keep Rutgers accountable in a way that every public institution should be. So we urge you to vote no. Thank you.
I want to underscore everything that Union President Brian Sachs just said, and only briefly add that I'm a researcher and a scholar who uses public records. I'm also a public employee who's subject to public records. I'm a community member. I read the news, and for all of these reasons, it's clear to me that we need more transparency, not less. We need more democracy, not less, and I urge you to vote no on this bill.
First of all, I equally respect Rutgers. Anything that you come up with when you read the bill, any comments you can make to make the bill better. I understand the 40,000-foot level because that's what we're talking right this second. Get into the details and tell me what you'd like to see changed. Not today, but please look into it and please reach out to the prime sponsor.
I believe it is.
He's willing to speak to everyone from what I understand.
We have and we will, and as you know, as people committed to improving public higher education in this state, we want a strong state university system, and we want a transparent and accountable state university system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Will we get sued if we ask for his contact information?
That's Jim Sullivan, ACLU, New Jersey, and Alex Ambrose, New Jersey Policy Professor.
Good morning. My name is Jim Sullivan, and I'm the Deputy Policy Director at ACLU, New Jersey. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in opposition to A4045, which would decrease access to public records by making numerous changes to the Open Public Records Act. The ACLU, New Jersey urges this committee to hold this bill and not vote it through today. This piece of legislation is another attack on democracy by decimating government transparency and accountability. In 2023, this legislature passed the Election Transparency Act, which, despite what its name might have you believe, decreased transparency in the money in politics. Now, A4045, which decreases transparency in the public records, is being held during Sunshine Week, which celebrates the necessity of government transparency and access to public records. This bill stands in stark contrast to everything that Sunshine Week, strong democracies, and the Open Public Records Act represent. ACLU New Jersey opposes A4045 broadly because of the negative impact it will have on access to public records, government transparency, public trust in government, and the ability of New Jerseyans to hold their government accountable. While there are pieces of this bill that could be acceptable upon further discussion and collaboration, the current bill language will gut transparency in New Jersey. OPRA is a law that impacts New Jerseyans across the state, and any effort to reform OPRA should be accompanied by robust and comprehensive public debate, not deals brokered behind closed doors to ensure a bad bill will get passed with little opposition from elected lawmakers. Both the contents of this bill and the process by which it is happening indicate that this legislature is willing to decimate these core democratic features that keep government and government actors accountable. The ACLU New Jersey has several specific concerns with the current language of this bill that must be addressed. First, the removal of mandatory fee shifting in Section 7 of this legislation will effectively remove the only mechanism in place to enforce the previous provisions of the Open Public Records Act. Under current laws, pro bono attorneys can take OPRA cases with the understanding that they will only get paid if they win. The changes in this legislation make it so attorneys would have to take these cases with the understanding that they might not get paid even if they do win. It sets up a system that all but guarantees no attorneys will represent requesters that have had their requests wrongfully denied. The ACLU New Jersey also has serious concerns about the removal of email and call logs as accessible government records. Access to these logs is incredibly useful to the general public and was reaffirmed by the New Jersey Supreme Court in 2017. These logs are also simple to create and are a low-effort lift for records custodians. There are no reasons to remove access to these logs. Along with the removal of access to logs, this bill also greatly increases the amount of specific information that a requester must provide to be deemed a valid request. Public records requests are already denied far too frequently, and creating a higher bar of information required while simultaneously removing access to the logs that may allow the requester to gain more specific information is a terrible policy decision that seems set up solely to decrease transparency. Furthermore, the ACLU New Jersey is incredibly disappointed to see the legislature is not willing to provide more access to police disciplinary records through OPRA. Instead, creating a task force with an overwhelmingly pro-law enforcement perspective that will ultimately recommend that the public will not have access to such records. New Jersey is behind more than half of the other states in the country when it comes to police disciplinary records. And the decades-long fight for transparency deserves substantial action rather than political favor. It is hard to accept this bill as OPRA reform when all it does is limit access while not increasing access in any meaningful way. Overall, ACLU New Jersey is disappointed both in the content of this bill and the process by which it is moving. It is undemocratic and a slap in the face to New Jerseyans across the state. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Karavich. It is still morning, yes. Chairman Karavich and members of the committee. My name we're getting there. My name is Alexandra, and I'm a policy analyst with New Jersey Policy Perspective. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to urge you to vote no on this bill. This bill is currently drafted would give the public's access to records that are generated by public dollars by public employees. Rather than support the public's access, this bill instead erects more obstacles to public access and removes protections that would make it possible to combat erroneous denials. Government records are generated by and for the public. To ensure transparency and accountability for the government activity, the public can and should be able to access these records. The entire purpose of OPRA is to expand and improve public access. Already, many requests are subject to erroneous delays and unexplained denials. This bill would create even more red tape for requesters and limit access to specialized researchers or moneyed special interests rather than members of the general public. As a research organization, New Jersey Policy Perspective frequently puts together its report using public data that it requests from public agencies. Public health data, budget data, and meeting minutes are critical components of understanding how government priorities are set. And as agencies put less and less information on public websites, OPRA has become one of the only ways to obtain this information. Some examples, NJPP had to use OPRA to request documents such as preschool attendance data, recently NJ Transit budgets and meeting minutes, and local law enforcement budgets. For me, I am also in graduate school, and for a recent project on New Jersey's pollution prevention law, I needed access to the annual release and pollution prevention reports that toxics industry facilities file. These are documents that are legally required to be available to the public under the community right to know provision of the law. These were not available in their entirety anywhere on DEP's website, and were it not for OPRA, it's possible I never would have been able to see them. There are many ways in which this bill would harm transparency and the right of the public to understand what it is government officials and employees are doing with public money and public trust, including expanding exemptions, increasing incentives for non-compliance or denial, expanding red tape, and more. NJPP provided written testimony that goes more into depth into these concerns, and I also want to echo what ACLU just said. At this juncture, I simply urge the committee to vote no on this bill. No set of amendments can improve what is a teardown of the entire concept of open records. Thank you.
Next two speakers are Sharon Miggins and Regina
DeSenza. It's a hard one. Half Sicilian.
Just push the button. Thank you. There you go.
My name is Sharon Miggins, a member of the League of Women Voters and a proud New Jersey voter. My remarks are brief, but I have traveled to Trenton today because I feel strongly about the importance of defending our democracy. I urge you to vote no on A4045. The reason New Jersey is considered one of the most corrupt states in the country is because everything is secret. Our state needs more transparency and public engagement, not less. Bills like this, particularly when they are introduced and rushed through committee hearings, testify to the fact that New Jersey voices will be ignored. Do not make the voters an afterthought. There is no reason to support this legislation. It is another direct assault on democracy in the United States. Step up and defend our country. Defeat this bill. Woo! All right.
Regina DeSenza, Lacey Township, two-term school board member. Did you say this morning that 2 people were in favor of this bill and you read the names and put them aside?
Yeah.
Was one of them the New Jersey School Board Association, you said? Yes. Oh, I have a serious problem with that. I use the New Jersey School Board Association records often to get information on my current school board members who failed to get their training. That's just one thing, and I find it appalling that they don't want to give us information when I have a hard enough time getting it. What I have here in my hand, when I was a school board member, I was left in the dark 99% of the time by my own school board. I summoned my school board president's emails. He went nuts when I got his emails. He was hiding so much from me, the public, it wasn't funny. I want to ask, when did this committee get their information on A4045? How long have you had the bill in your possession, and were you able to read it and digest it? Yes or no?
This is a comment on the bill.
I want to know when you got your information, because I was told Friday morning that some people still didn't have a copy of the bill yet. Is that true?
I would prefer you ask about the bill, not question
Okay.
the committee.
I'm going to give you another example about why A4045 needs to die. You asked for improvements to it. It can't be improved. It needs to die. And I'll be talking to Mr. Sarlo about that soon. Our township clerk held private session minutes, committee council minutes, off the township website for over a year, and then got upset when I started requesting those minutes by OPRA. Put your information online and nobody will have to ask for it. As someone previously said, let's digitize records so there'll be less need for open public records. Put it out there. And if anybody's ever seen it, OPRAmachine.com, the best and easiest way to get public records. Fast and free, and anyone can access them so they don't have to be asked for over and over again. No improvements to A4045, just kill it.
Kill it.
opportunity. My name is Allison McLeod. I am the Senior Policy Manager for the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters, the statewide political voice for the environment. In my previous life, I worked for a local government. I also worked for state government for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, which I will acknowledge receives more OPRA requests than the entirety of the United States EPA combined. And I am still opposing this bill. And the reason I am opposing this bill is because of why everyone needs those records. In our work as environmentalists, we often request public records to understand development projects, to understand land use decisions. And there are a number of problems that we have with this bill. One of them is that you can simply label everything as draft, and all of a sudden it's not a government record anymore. So what's to stop everyone from just having draft labeled on everything throughout the process, and then no one can get access to those records until it's too late to make a difference, and it's too late to receive any public input. The other problem that we have with this bill is that it makes it very difficult to request email logs and call logs. You have to know specifics. And again, when the public is trying to get information about these kind of development projects, and many other records, frankly, but just speaking from my lens, they might not know the specific person that they need. And so now all of a sudden they're cut out of that process. There's no stakeholder input. And finally, it changes that you can recoup attorney fees, as some other folks have mentioned, so I won't go too much into it, from shall to may, right? And that gets rid of that accountability. And frankly, if government work, like emailing, is not a government record, what is a government record? So we urge you to vote no on this until there can be significant discussion and stakeholder input. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Jessie Burns, and I'm the Executive Director of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. Sorry, I've done this a couple of times. I can't believe I missed that. Elected officials and voting rights organizations such as ours share a common and important purpose. We are entrusted with protecting and defending our democracy. We are charged with increasing civic engagement, and we are, above all, public servants that must always put our dedication to democracy ahead of any partisan, political, or powerful special interests that might seek to erode the public's trust in our democratic institutions. The ramifications of 4045 do not align with our shared values. The Open Public Records Act is critical to the health of our democracy, and this legislation does not reflect the stakeholder and public engagement necessary before any changes might be considered. I would like to point out that for over 20 years, the League of Women Voters has been at every conversation regarding any changes to OPRA until now.
Wow.
Despite multiple attempts for good government groups to be part of the stakeholder table, we have been left out of this conversation. I've seen this bill, same time everybody else has seen it. We have not been heard regarding specific changes that could help improve OPRA or modernize it, and we have been purposely, I think, left out of this conversation. The fee shifting provision, I'll summarize a few of the things. ACLU, my colleague here, Allison, NJPP, hit a lot of these points. So we have problems with the fee shifting provision, exempting email logs. I don't know if anybody mentioned metadata, the journalists might have mentioned it, but metadata is important for fact checking to see when documents were created. So exempting that is an issue. My members mentioned that they have a fear of facing additional accusations of harassment under this bill. We have problems with the specific forms to request. I think that's a well-intentioned change, but it practically just will not work. There are some things in the bill that are helpful, which I'll state out loud, such as putting documents online and exempting certain sensitive information like birth dates and financial banking information. But so much of this bill is harmful that I'm asking you to please vote no today. Come back to the table. Let's have a conversation like we did over 20 years ago when this bill was first passed, which took lots of compromise, lots of public debate, lots of conversation, and we can do better for OPRA together. I urge you not to release it from committee. Let's bring stakeholders to the table and give efforts to modernize OPRA to the robust public conversation our democracy deserves. Thank you.
Next two speakers will be Scott Burwich and Jennifer Ward. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I apologize for my sneakers and my band. I was so excited to be here today. I actually fell down half a flight of stairs leaving County this morning. So I am of counsel at Pashman-Stein. I'm also a former chair of the New Jersey Press Association. I'm a fellow and senior research scholar at Yale Law School's Media Freedom of Information Access Clinic. But I'm not here before you today in that capacity. I'm here today in the capacity of former general counsel at North Jersey Media Group, which published the record, also known as the Bergen Record, and the Herald News. But I'm not here with their current owner, which is Gannett, but I am here for the prior owner, which was my family. I was the fourth generation family member to join the Bergen Record. We could not have done our stories, right? I just congratulate our newsrooms, without having mandatory fees. Democracy relies on accountability. Accountability relies on transparency. If you all remember a very, very famous email that was on our front page, time for some traffic problems. And in the wake of that email, there was a lot of circling of the wagons, and if it had not been for lovely attorneys, fabulous, competent attorneys who offered to take these over cases for me, because I could not run with my brother and my dad at a 1,000-employee company and also be handling all the OPRA requests. We were able to really shed light on the wake of Bridgegate, on the Gibson-Dunn report, the over $1 million of legal fees that taxpayers were paying for that report, as well as for other legal fees. We also were very instrumental in helping public police accountability. You may recall that our paper had North Jersey Media Group versus Lyndhurst, where we took that case to the New Jersey Supreme Court. I'd like to show it, I'm going to be brief, but the fact is that the government attorneys get paid whether they win or lose. The OPRA attorneys obviously only are getting paid when they prevail. They're not getting rich off these fees. As a matter of fact, I think the record at some point was one of the most prolific OPRA requesters, but we rarely took them to court. We worked a lot with our opposing counsel to try to get access to the records and not have to worry about a fee award. I'm going to show you one quick example and then I'll be done. This is an example, if you remember Hurricane Sandy. It cost the taxpayers of New Jersey over $100 million because they did not put the rail cars and locomotives in the proper place according to the hurricane emergency plan. This is what I got back from NJT. Our reporter filed an OPRA request. 3.5 pages, fully redacted. I filed a court case married to Judge Mary Jacobson, one of the finest judges I've ever been before, released it thus, completely unredacted, with the exception of a name there. If it had not been for outside counsel, we would not have been able to have shown the taxpayers what cost them over $100 million because the New Jersey Transit did not follow its own plan. And it kept the rail cars in low-lying areas such as Kearney and Hoboken. So I urge you please to oppose this bill and further transparency in this state. Thank you.
Everybody, my name is Scott Gorich. I'm from Woodbridge Township, originally from Jersey City. Who am I? Why am I here? First off, I'm registered as unaffiliated. I'm basically nonpartisan. I voted for people on all sides of the aisle and independent. I'm not running for any office. You don't see this in a campaign video. No offense to Steve Paul. But I don't represent any groups of any kind. I'm a private citizen. I utilize OPRA extensively in my township because I've seen the effect that the abuse of pilots in tax policy for towns hurts citizens. I'm not against pilots as a concept, I'm not against development, but I use these OPRA requests extensively to run my own financial analysis and challenge my city to come up with a better way. I am extremely concerned about the bill that's being proposed, and as someone said, there's no way to fix this bill. It must be killed.
Yes.
It threatens our ability to try and bring the state out of what I would call the gutter of corruption, and it is insulting, as some have said, given that it is happening during Sunshine Week while the state is currently embroiled in multiple scandals from Menendez and beyond, from COVID protocols, etc., etc. It is insulting that any politician from any background would propose such an egregious attack on our access to public records. And it's telling that you have both done at the same time, because I'm going to rush out of here and go downstairs and say the same thing. The thing I want to clear up is to make sure we're very clear here. We own most of this data. I'm sure there's exceptions to this. My receipt, when I go to ADP and look at my pay stub and I see that line for New Jersey tax, which is a pretty high rate relative to the rest of the country, that's my receipt for the data. How dare anybody purport to keep from me that which I own? Someone talked about unintended consequences. One thing government does is it's late to the game and overcorrects. At the federal level, you see it. At the state level, in the municipalities, we need this, we need that. Once the other side's in power, there will come a day when a Republican might be governor. Then you're going to be very sorry that you did this. And that's not an anti-Republican. Each side does it. Get rid of the filibuster. Now the other side's in charge. We need the filibuster, etc., etc. Your own acting state controller is against this act. The guy whose job it is, literally, to tell the government when it's being too sketchy, was not consulted on the bill and is ardently against it. Let's talk about the state's reputation, which I vigorously defend. I'm proud to be from this state. I want to clue the body into something. When people talk about New Jersey being notoriously corrupt, remember, I'm from Hudson County. I know a little something about it. I'm now in Middlesex County. I know a little more something about it. When people, this is not a nebulous concept. This is what it looks like. They're talking about this body, the other body, the entire body. This is what is continually referred to as a corrupt body. It's not a nebulous concept. It's real. We're living it right now. This is why I came out of nowhere and did this. Lastly, I'm a solutions guy. It's a simple yes-no check. Just kill the bill and come back with something. Kill the bill. Does this make it easier for me to get access to the documents I need to do the analysis and keep my government in check? If the answer is no, bad bill.
Yep.
If the answer is yes, fantastic. But you have to include the people and all the relevant parties. We even talk about journalists, who I love that keep this in the sunlight. I appreciate the time. I'm an optimist. I know you'll do the right thing. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is William Emmons and Dave Pringle. Dave's still here.
Must be downstairs.
We're going to bring somebody else. Eric Richard. New Jersey AFL-CIO. Please.
Members of the committee, appreciate the opportunity to testify. My name is William Ames. I'm with Working Together for New Jersey Election Integrity. I'm a volunteer citizen, unpaid by anybody. Work with all 21 county clerks, boards of elections, supervisors of elections, and the Secretary of State. And they have thanked us for the information we are able to provide them that the state voter registration system does not provide them. Election integrity is probably the foremost right that we need to protect. And under our Constitution, elected officials' job is to protect our rights, not to disperse our funds. We are very concerned about this bill. It needs to be killed outright, both here and in the Senate. Many of the aspects of it we've begun to work on it, spent more than 12 hours analyzing so far. We're not done yet. We will submit testimony with regard to detail. But truth is what matters, and the various prior speakers have spoken very eloquently about that. New Jersey should not shut down access to the public's information. You want to post it all online? We're happy to see that. But shutting it down, stopping the fee shifting, eliminating metadata, and as to the personal information, which we all think probably should not be posted, it is exactly that personal information which enables us to validate our voter registration system. Name, address, sometimes phone number, sometimes 4 digits of a social security number, all of the things that people might think are not necessary if we wish to have honest and true and fair and open and nonpartisan elections. Those aspects are exactly what enable us to find duplicate registrations, triplicate registrations, and in one case in Lakewood, more than 2,200 individuals registered as their residents at a religious facility where you do not sleep overnight. We have problems. We need to be able to find them. We need to be able to correct them. We need OPRA to do that, unless you're going to post everything publicly all the time. Notes are very important discovery elements because there are things that happen within our election system. We have a long tradition in that need to be discovered. So if we're going to go and specifically hide all these aspects, I have to ask, who is it that is fearful that they're about to be discovered? Last year we went through this with the ELEC. You may remember that. It did save some legislators major fines by changing the whole set of rules for the Election Law Enforcement Commission. There are aspects of this bill that look very similar. So I am quite concerned. I ask you, please, kill this bill outright. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Eric Richard. I'm a representative for the New Jersey State AFL-CIO. As many of the previous folks that have spoken to you, we respectfully oppose the bill for a number of reasons, many of which has already been stated, but we agree wholeheartedly with the comments that have been delivered thus far in regard to the procedural issues with this piece of legislation, in regard to fast-tracking this piece of legislation. We agree to the philosophical, good government and transparency concerns with this bill. But we also want to bring to your attention something specific to our members, union members that we represent. This bill, if enacted, will have a very significant negative impact on organized labor's ability to gain access to critical information during collective bargaining negotiations and contract campaigns. Access to government records is essential for labor representatives in our day-to-day operations for researching a multitude of issues important to our members. The importance of this cannot be understated. Restrictions to OPRA are restrictions on organized labor's ability to do their job representing their members. I would bring up an example just recently of negotiations on the significant increases in local government healthcare costs within the State Health Benefits Commission. Because of the lack of response from OPRA with the existing statute, it had a significant adverse impact on our ability to differentiate different types of fees inside of the State Health Benefits Plan. That had a significant negative impact on the ability for us to come forward to elected officials such as yourselves and make a logical and straightforward presentation on various fiscal matters related to the State Health Benefits Plan. I would also say that if we're going to have our hands tied on actuarial data that various departments are using on personnel, our members, on personnel, this again is going to have a very serious negative impact on the ability of us to bargain in good faith with our employers, which are local governments, county governments, and state governments. I'll simply close by saying this. We hear quite a bit at the federal level about democracy being on the ballot this year. And I would simply say that as our democratically elected officials, this bill speaks to the fact that democracy is on the ballot every single day, not just on election day. That's right. And if we close the door on that, even in some interpret this bill in different ways, some of us think it has fairly significant negative consequences. Some think perhaps there's some room for negotiation. I would say if this bill passes, you are going to close the door on democracy. Yeah. We talk about this at the federal level. It needs to be reflected here at the state level as well. We respectfully ask you to oppose this bill. Thank you.
The next two speakers are General Harvey and Mary Ann Cleveland.
Thank you.
You good? That's perfect.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee for allowing us to present our arguments. My name is Carol Harvey. I represent the League of Women Voters of Somerset and Hunterdon counties. We oppose this proposed revisions to the Open Records Act as specified, in Assembly Bill 4045. I am not going to go through all of the arguments pro and con. A lot of speakers have already covered this gamut pretty thoroughly. We do respect the fact that there are good reasons to revisit OPRA. It needs to be updated for abuses, and that's appropriate. But this bill doesn't do that effectively, and it can't do it effectively if it's going to do it by reducing access to public information and records for all citizens, for the press, and other parties who have testified today, and who have valid uses for this information. And of course, the procedural issues are very disturbing. What is the rush, anyway? We think you can do better than this. We can do better than this together if we involve stakeholders in the process. But there's a very basic issue. People have referred to the dangers of democracy. And I think that needs, that can't be stressed strongly enough. If you read the Washington Post, you're familiar with the phrase, democracy dies in darkness. An open and transparent government engenders citizen trust in their elected officials. And this trust is the bedrock of our democratic society. Now we all know, as we mentioned in recent years, there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation disseminated by bad actors who want to erode public trust in our institutions and are sadly succeeding. So now, more than ever, we need to beat back that darkness. We need to maintain and expand transparency in our government. This proposed legislation takes us backwards, not forward. It supports the narrative of those who would disrupt and destroy our democratic institutions. Do you all really want to do that? That's the message here. The League of Women Voters of Hunterdon and Somerset counties asks all of you, all of our elected officials, to vote no on A4045. Please stand up for democracy.
I echo everything that my sister, League of Women Voters, just said, and I'm probably going to repeat a few things, but I think you need to hear it again. Yeah. My name is Mary Ann Cleveland. I'm Vice President with the League of Women Voters of Monmouth County. And before I took that position, I spent a 30-year career in community reporting and PR. I have to say that the Open Records Act has been a major tool of the press and local citizens since its creation 20 years ago. In today's world, where more and more local reporting and newspapers are disappearing, it is one of the few tools we have to learn what our government is doing in our name. These bills are a travesty to government transparency. I can't figure out why you're doing this other than you don't want the press and therefore the public to know what you're doing. And don't throw these weak excuses that it will save taxpayers money. The purpose of a strong OPRA is so you don't waste taxpayers' money. Corruption. And we know this happens at the highest levels of government. I urge you to reject this misbegotten bill and vote no on A4045. Thank you.
The next speakers are Paula Rosavini and Janet Fisher-Hughes. my policy. I'll get you the next one, I promise.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Janet Fisher Hughes. I live in Pennsauken, and I am on the boards of the League of Women Voters of Camden County and the League of Women Voters in New Jersey. I believe that there are many troubling aspects of this bill, but I would like to focus my remarks on one key aspect that makes this bill untenable for those seeking government records, especially if they are seeking records from multiple entities. Current law specifies that the custodian of a public agency shall adopt a form for the use of any person who requests access to a government record held or controlled by the public agency. It further specifies the type of information that should be included on the form and the requester's rights in the event of a denial. Currently, custodians must comply with an open request regardless of whether or not the form is used, as long as adequate information is provided by the requester. However, an additional provision of this bill, a request shall be submitted by a requester in the form adopted by the custodian, and the custodian may deny a request that is not submitted in the form adopted by the custodian, will make the process of making the same OPRA request to multiple entities an exceedingly onerous task, especially if many of them do not have fillable fields. Requiring the use of individual agencies' forms will also make it impossible for requesters to use useful tools such as OPRA Machine to file such requests and to share results of such requests with others who may benefit from the resulting information. There are unintended consequences here that can lead to additional burdens for both custodians and the public. I urge you to vote no on A4045, and I thank you very much for your time today.
Hi, my name is Paula Rogovin. I'm a member of League of Women Voters of Teaneck, New Jersey. The League has long supported real transparency reforms that strengthen our democracy and are designed to increase engagement and public trust. This bill is not that. I urge you to kill A4045. A4045 decreases government transparency and access to public records by gutting the existing law and making it more difficult for members of the public that the government serves, to access records. I taught kindergarten and first grade for 44 years in New York City public schools. I taught my young children to ask questions and to find many ways to search for answers. Only after we did research did we think of ways to take action on issues that concerned our class. For older students and adults, OPRA provides access to information that can inform our thinking and our actions in a democratic society. To deprive public access to essential information puts our society at great risk. The same has been true in environmental justice work that I have done, along with many thousands of others here in New Jersey. It's worth reminding members of the committee that this legislation was introduced a week ago. OPRA impacts New Jerseyans across the state, and these bills deserve substantial public debate and consideration, not a rapid process with little or almost no conversation. The bill is 29 pages of complicated, detailed information that the public, not to mention New Jersey legislators, deserve to have time to understand and to digest. And to further the irony, this is National Sunshine Week, a time to celebrate the fundamental role of democracy and transparency in a free society. Despite the short time frame between this bill's introduction and its scheduled committee hearings, we've seen massive amounts of public opposition by New Jersey residents, by nonpartisan organizations, government agencies, the media, public and current and former public officials, and more. There are just as many folks in the other committee session voicing opposition as there are here in this room right now. We have shown up here today to shine a light on what is really in this bill. I hope the members of this committee will listen. The League has always stood strong in the face of attacks on transparency. I urge this committee to vote no, and I thank you for your time. And I hold this sign for you. Democracy dies in darkness. Don't shred democracy. Don't shred
Good afternoon. Good thing I didn't put good morning in my testimony. I'm Sean Hadley with the New Jersey Education Association. I took paper copies of my testimony, but we did provide our testimony already to the committee electronically as well as to the Senate and to the sponsor. I'll be brief with my comments. Our brothers and sisters at the AFL-CIO, at the AAUP have already raised a couple of issues. I want to be clear that our position here is seeking amendments, coming here in good faith and hoping that we can get this better, but we do have a very big concern on two issues in the bill. I just want to illustrate them a little bit of how it affects labor, because we were a little confused and a little alarmed that labor would at all be targeted in a bill like this, and so we were wanting to bring this to your attention just as an example of something that we think could be rife for potential abuse in the way this bill is written. So specifically what we're concerned about is that in Section 2 of the bill, it says that we should exclude from public records any information related to strategies or negotiating positions that would unfairly prejudice or impair contract negotiations. That's it. That's all it says. And this is a very overly broad and, in our opinion, undefined phrase that could really be subject to much misunderstanding and close the door on a lot of information that we rely on as part of the collective bargaining process. So we are very concerned about this provision in the bill, and certainly without any more movement on this bill, I mean, I don't see how in its current form we could end up ultimately supporting this bill, because this particular provision really gives us pause as to what its impact would be. There's no definition. This is unprecedented. To have this type of restriction, in a state that does value organized labor and does value a collective bargaining process that is, preferably collaborative and ultimately transparent at the end of the day. So we are very concerned about this. There's also another piece of the bill that we believe is just technical oversight, and that piece of the bill has to do with in Section 2 when you're defining the commercial purpose. You say great things, about news media and other educational and scientific organizations. Oddly enough, labor unions are conspicuously absent from that definition, and we think that we should be included in there. So those are two items that I just wanted to point out in the bill that are a problem, but I really do want to acknowledge a lot of the comments that you've heard already this morning that we've been monitoring, and we are concerned about it. We are concerned about how this bill is being seen in the public. Our members are public servants, and our members know that schools work best when the communities that they serve are filled with, trust and respect. We are in an era of, unfortunately, rising distrust, especially with our public institutions. And so we would please ask that this committee seriously consider how this bill will be viewed by the public, where our schools serve the public. We do not want to add anything more to the atmosphere of mistrust in this current climate. So please keep that in mind as you move forward, and I'm happy to, I want to thank you for the time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I'm covering 4 committees simultaneously today, including 2 on this very issue, which is part of the problem. You shouldn't be doing that. representing Empower New Jersey, which is a coalition dedicated to getting New Jersey off of fossil fuels due to the climate emergency, creating green jobs and environmental justice with a rapid and equitable transition to a 100% squeaky, truly clean energy economy by 2035. We join in the collective chorus of opposition today. We strongly oppose the bill. There's a saying that the best sunshine is the best disinfectant when it comes to government. And this bill puts people more in the dark than they otherwise would be and should move forward. You've heard all the concerns around fee shifting and specific subject matter, discrete and limited time periods, and employees versus departments and harassment. All that stuff is, at best, very poorly and defined and really needs to be tightened up. But really shouldn't be in there. If you want to deal with some inappropriate data mining, then do that. But this bill isn't that bill. You've heard about an attack on democracy. We are in troubled times. You are moving this bill in this form, in this way. You should be looking at the mirror, and I think you might be seeing a former president, because this is the kind of tactics that he does. Thank you.
Thank you. Next two speakers, Barry Bendar, Coyle.
Good afternoon at this point. My name is Deborah Coyle. I'm Executive Director of New Jersey Work Environment Council. And just give a little bit about my organization. We're a coalition of 70 labor, community, environmental organizations. And back in 1983, WAC with a number of allies helped push and get past the state community right to know, which at the time was the strongest in the country. We've also worked on OPRA issues and SEPA. So this is an issue near and dear to our heart. And as a lot of former colleagues or colleagues in front of me have said, the irony isn't lost on me that this bill, A4045, is fast-tracked. And respectfully, it's not an opinion that it's gutting OPRA, it is gutting OPRA. And here we are the Monday after daylight savings, and the committee room is packed. And this really isn't a good look for New Jersey to kick off Sunshine Week. So we've been, as I said, we've been working on right to know issues for a long time. And I've been with the organization long enough to remember the conversations around if email should be included in OPRA requests. My organization and myself, we have firsthand knowledge of using OPRA, and I just wanted to give one example. We requested a record, which is supposed to be publicly accessible under the Federal Community Right to Know Act back in 2014. In 2018, we have litigation. We entered litigation against the state. And just this past May of 2023, I finally got access to that record. I've been with my organization a long time. Many staff members would not be able to say that 9 years later, I finally got to see the record. So this bill is going in the wrong direction. And the other thing I want to say about this, the request that I'm referencing, this started, it was a union request of workers in a refinery that have the responsibility to respond to if there's a catastrophic event. And they wanted to know how the municipality was going to support them. And they were told, no, you cannot see that information. That is a problem. And this bill does nothing to address that problem. Instead, this bill takes it in the opposite direction. So at a time when California is looking to expand OPRA and access to public records, instead we are going with states like Arkansas. No offense to Arkansas, but we should be more in line with what California is doing and looking to expand OPRA and not retract it. And I also want to say last week, for those that don't know, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency issued a new rule, Safer Communities by Chemical Accident Prevention, which updates the Risk Management Program rule. And that expands access to certain information for facilities that use extremely hazardous substances at a higher threshold. And that's close to about 12,000 facilities across the country, and it's approximately 90 in New Jersey. This bill is dangerous, and it's harmful to our democracy, as we have heard, and I urge you to vote no. And the last thing I'll say is a PS. I'm a small organization. I have a staff of 5 people. And to have a bill of this importance be heard in the committee, 2 committees at the same time, is unconscionable. There should be a bill that prohibits that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barry Bender. I'm a co-chair of the Green Party in New Jersey, but I happen to live, she's not here, she's here with my friend Regina, who spoke earlier. We have a lot of fun doing OPRAs where we live. We spell a word wrong or say the word, phrase, it comes back to you and you have to resubmit. But what I want to talk about, someone had mentioned the 40,000-foot view of what's going on with this bill. I want to go to the 100,000-foot view. I've participated in the electoral process, probably run for office too many times. But when I go door to door and I knock on doors saying, hey, vote for me, whatever, a lot of people say, well, I don't vote because they don't listen to me. Okay. A key word that's being said over and over here, and many, many people here have put a lot of good arguments why this should be flushed. The key word here is transparency. The people, not just in New Jersey, when I lived in New Jersey, all except for 1 year of my life, I've been in this state, people have lost their faith in government. Part of that loss of faith is because they feel there is no transparency and they don't know what's going on. They're not being told what's going on, etc. The abysmal turnouts we've had in our elections, like the last election cycle in my county, a 20% turnout, that's in a general election, is unconscionable. I mean, basically people are being elected by 20% of the people who are out there who are eligible to vote. Anything that decreases transparency and lets these people feel like they are separated from their government and who they vote for and who passes the laws, it shouldn't even come up. It shouldn't even come up. That's why I'm saying myself, and I can speak for all the people in the Green Party in New Jersey, you need to shut this down, because any decrease in transparency hurts our democracy and it hurts bringing people out to vote. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the next two are Taylor and McPartland, Sierra Club, and Brayward, Clean Water Act.
You good?
Oh.
Is this on?
No, just push the button. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Taylor McFarland. I'm the Conservation Program Manager for the Sierra Club New Jersey chapter. The Sierra Club is the nation's oldest and largest environmental organization. We have about 120,000 members and supporters in New Jersey and 3.8 million members and supporters nationwide. We stand with the League of Women's Voters and the people who testified beforehand. We do not support this legislation and really discourage the fast-track process of this legislation. There's 3 of us in the New Jersey chapter, 3 staffers. Angela Ramos is testifying in the Senate Environment, and I'm trying to do this and go downstairs quickly. So it's just really impossible to participate on a bill that would impact public participation. The bill will make it harder for our organization to protect the environment by limiting our access to critical information on projects that are detrimental to our air, our water, and our open space. OPRA is used as a tool by us and everyday people who are trying to protect themselves from harmful projects and development. We're fighting numerous projects on a state and local level. For example, we're fighting a compressor station in the pristine area of the Highlands Preservation, luxury condos in an area where there's a reservoir that would be impacted and it supplies drinking water for 200,000 people. There's another warehouse proposal in a country road alongside Manalapan, right next to a historical state park. We're fighting all of these projects, and the list goes on and on. We are the 911 call for the environment. DEP sends people to us to fight projects. And we cannot fight every single project, which is why we teach people how to be their own advocate. And a major part of standing up and fighting for your clean air, clean water, and open space is being informed. OPRA does just that. It gives the public the information they need to make effective comments at their local town council hearing
or to the New Jersey DEP and ultimately make better change. People should be able to see and know what's happening in our government, and information should be available to increase transparency and public participation. Unfortunately, this bill does the opposite. What's the point of calling it OPRA if the process isn't open to the public? We ask that you vote no for this bill. Thank you.
Hello, my name is X Braithwaite and I'm the Environmental Justice Organizer for Clean Water Action. I've been an organizer for about 7 years, since I was 14, with the North Students Union, and I went on to do it because I'm passionate about it. I heard different views today, and I'm coming from the moral imperative to protect communities. This law blatantly contradicts everything that other government organizations seek, specifically transparency. I don't know if you guys are aware that the Department of Environmental Protection passed the Environmental Justice Law, which requires facilities to be more transparent in the way that they interact with communities, because it's been proven, right? The Environmental Justice Law is functionally an apology letter to communities of color, because it's been proven that they disproportionately experience the negative impact of pollution. So, for example, in my work, I worked on a facility in Jersey City, the Diversified Global Graphics Group. I found out through only an OPRA request that they had 20 violations from the DEP, and they're also less than a mile away from Liberty State Park in a summer camp, Camp Liberty. So, OPRA requests creates meanings for change for communities. If I can't get that information, then I also can't spread it to other people. Right? People who need OPRA requests are functionally locked out of the process of them, because all of the EJ law talks about how vulnerable these communities are in terms of getting this information in the first place. 40% of them have to be low income, 40%, and this is the definition of overburdened communities, which the EJ law defines. 40% have to be people of color, and 40% of them have to have limited English. Those are the people who need OPRA requests, right? So putting fees on it, making it harder for people like me to communicate with the community is not what you guys want. I don't think so, right? I was in another meeting and my supervisor told me, you guys were voting on an OPRA request that requests fees. I'm not understanding. And then another thing is harassment, right? So a person putting in multiple OPRA requests, I don't know what harassment looks like in terms of you just getting information for the community. Like, I just find that ridiculous. So the EJ law is dependent on the OPRA request, right? Even if you look on the DEP website, the first thing you see under the Environmental Justice Law is enforcement. They're telling the community to go find enforcement strategies through the PI code. Once you get a PI code, you submit an OPRA request to have that facility be looked into. If the community can't do that, then there's no reason for the Environmental Justice Law to even exist, right? That means it doesn't matter. So I urge you guys to vote no on this, because if you guys actually care about the community and the people that you intend to serve, it doesn't make sense that you make it more inaccessible for them. Thank you.
Next two speakers, Renee Steinhagen and Charlie Patrick.
You go first, Charlie. Sure. Yes.
Good afternoon, members of the Assembly. Chairman, it's good to see you. I know we don't always agree, but you've always been a gentleman, and I appreciate you hearing us out today. My name is Charlie Cradaville. I'm not here as your favorite local reporter today, but I'm with Food and Water Watch. And speaking on behalf of our 70,000 members around the state, at Food and Water Watch, we fight for a livable future by supporting clean water, clean energy, and healthy, affordable food systems. The bill before you would make it harder for us to do this important work. As has already been stated, permit applications, notices of violation, other environmental records are critical to getting the facts. OPRA is a tool for truth and justice. One of the problems in our society is that a lot of us don't have good information, and we fight with each other based on rumors or bad information. OPRA is a tool that allows people to get to that common set of facts, to be able to find out from primary sources what our government is doing, when they did it, and how it can be improved. I used to work for an organization where we would teach people how to get laws passed, and one of the strategies is use OPRA to find out what's already being done, find out if it's working, find out how it can be improved. And without that common set of facts, it's very hard to improve our society. You know, whether it's a fossil fuel power plant like the one we defeated in Woodbridge, or a warehouse, or a housing development, or a transportation project, getting access to those applications, to the correspondence, is critical to informing people about those projects. And it's not just reporters and activists that use the OPRA, it is parents who care about their kids' education. It's property owners who want to maintain and improve their property. It's people who've had an incident with the police, including victims, who want to exercise their rights and defend themselves. And this would decimate those rights. So I'm just going to go through very quickly the parts of the law that I think are worth mentioning here. I understand there's been some amendments that the public hasn't seen yet, so I'm going to go off of what I printed off the NJ Legislature's website this morning, page 8, line 5. This would be now permanently exempted. Quote, structured reference data that helps to sort and identify attributes of the information it describes, referred to as metadata, or any extrapolation or compilation thereof. That's pretty much anything. Line 13 has been mentioned, logs of telephone calls, emails, or texts. Critical to learning about what communications are taking place in public entities. Page 9, line 30, is the definition of personal identifying information, and that definition includes information that may be used alone or in conjunction with any other information to identify a specific individual. That could be construed to mean someone's name. It's extremely broad and would allow for countless records to be kept secret. Page 11. The requirement for redaction would, if it violates a citizen's reasonable expectation of privacy, and that also is very broad. I'll move on to page 12, special service charges, already been mentioned here. Yeah.
Can you put all of that in, I don't know if you gave us a letter of documentation regarding those points, that would be great. We'll take a look at the amendments that we have today, and please reach out to the correspondent.
Sure, it would be Mr. Danielson?
Yes.
I did reach out to him. He hung up the phone on me. And
I don't know about that, because I spoke with him this morning, and he said he was able to talk to him.
Okay. I did also put a call into his chief of staff, and I'm waiting for that. But I do think it's important to just go through a couple more, so I'll be very brief.
Unfortunately, I still have more, Charlie.
I understand. I just wanted to address the bill directly, if possible.
Well, then for the bill, please send it to us in writing. I'll have to move on to this signing.
Okay, well, maybe we can talk afterwards if you have some time.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee Steinhagen. I'm the Executive Director of the organization called New Jersey Advocacy Public Interest Law Center. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan, a legal advocacy center based in Newark. We've been in existence for over a quarter of a century, and government accountability has been the major focus of our work through something we call the Prerogative Writ Project. We've battled misuse of government funds and public lands, fought to enforce pay-to-play protections, opposed discriminatory action, and otherwise stood up against government malfeasance and overreach, both of which I would fear would be increased here. Basically, this bill eviscerates the Open Public Records Act, which you've heard others say, and it significantly undermines government transparency and thus accountability, which is really making this fundamentally undemocratic. Most importantly, for my purposes, it deters the very community activists
who come to us and ask us to bring prerogative writ actions to compel government to do the right thing. They come to us after having made their OPRA requests and getting the very information on which we can act. OPRA, as it now stands, is far from perfect, and there are aspects of it that need to be updated to reflect technological changes and how records are stored, retrieved, and accessed. But as others have said before me, and I will probably cut everything short, you do have my written testimony, which I feel maybe is so accurate because everyone else has made specific points that I have here. I do want to say that this bill really needs to, we should be strengthening the law by making it easier rather than harder to obtain records, but this bill goes in the opposite direction. I'm not going to, it chips away at definitions. I think we've already dealt with it, but most importantly, the aspect, which I think only the ACLU had mentioned, was that the new exclusions for logs and telephone calls, emails, or texts actually overrule a unanimous Supreme Court decision in Fact v. Galway. Another aspect that the court had dealt with that is now be creating a loophole would apply to requests that the custodian decides will require research and compiling of information into a new record. There's much wrong, and we are willing to sit down with these specific definitions and go on. But one of the things that people mentioned with the new form that would be required, this language would effectively shut down now this OPRA machine, which is an invaluable online tool for requesting records that more than 1,300 state agencies and municipalities and school boards are currently using. There's also a retroactivity provision that no one has mentioned that is just simply intolerable. So as others have said, government transparency is so fundamental to our democracy that any changes to OPRA should be well considered, which I think everyone has said in this rush process they are not, or we're assuming that they have not been. And it should be based on the input from all the stakeholders, all the people that have shown you here, that have come here with you today. Use OPRA. This is not just an abstract idea. They use OPRA to protect their constituencies and their organizations that they work for. And that is what's essentially at here that is being threatened.
Thank you. Next speakers are Heidi and Sharon Brooks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Heidi Yeh, Policy Director for the Pinelands Preservation Alliance. We are the leading voice for environmental protection in the Pinelands of New Jersey and beyond. And I agree with many of the speakers before us, especially the work that is done by New Jersey Sierra Club. So I'll just highlight one example of how OPRA has been important to our work and the way that this current bill would undermine our environmental advocacy. So we are particularly concerned given the trend that we are seeing in South Jersey with towns abusing the redevelopment provisions of the municipal land use law to redevelop farms, fields, and forests into warehouses and sprawling subdivisions, rather than areas that are actually in need of redevelopment, such as derelict and underused existing development. These redevelopment plans are almost entirely negotiated behind closed doors, as they are allowed to circumvent the usual planning and zoning board scrutiny that regular development undergoes. The public has no chance to provide their input until the ordinances abruptly appear on town council agendas and are often rushed through with little discussion. Strong OPRA laws are the only effective tool that we currently have to get a peek behind the curtain to monitor government activity around these redevelopment plans. Measures proposed in today's bill will weaken this tool. Preserving the ability to make broad requests for communications without needing to know the specific government employees and officials involved is essential. In our current campaign to save the Polebridge Forest in Pemberton Township from being redeveloped, the Developers Council was arguing that the township had granted the developer permission to use specific township-owned lots after we had blocked their ability to directly sell these through a public auction. But by being able to request all communications around this plan with an OPRA request, it was essential to uncovering the fact that the consent order that this developer was hanging its hat on
was simply an email that was sent by the township administrator claiming to be the acting mayor, while the actual mayor was out on vacation out of the country. The chances are slim that we would have discovered this in a timely manner without existing OPRA rules, which allows access to email logs and other broad information requests. So this is just one example of the ways that OPRA has been important to our environmental advocacy in the Pinelands and beyond. Therefore, we do not support the weakening of OPRA rules, and we urge the committee not to support this bill. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Fran Brooks, and I am secretary of the New Jersey Foundation for Open Government. Almost all of the proposed changes are severely regressive. We recommend that 4045 be withdrawn from consideration. As an organization, we are not aware of any interest group that was given an opportunity to review draft versions of these bills, including the Senate version, of course. It is not a small irony that these bills were drafted in secret, introduced without prior notice, and sent to the committee in 7 days. Based on the complete lack of transparency, we request and recommend that the bill be withdrawn from committee so that all interested parties may have a meaningful opportunity to provide their comments and input regarding the harm that A 4045 would cause to New Jersey residents. In addition, I'd like to switch my hat and speak as a private citizen regarding one particular provision, because there are many provisions that we object to as an organization, and me personally as well. And I would like to speak to the provision that would exempt logs of telephone calls, emails, texts, electronic or paper calendars for individuals. I successfully appealed a trial court decision that wrongfully protected email logs. I have the standing appellate court decision. In that case, the email logs revealed that elected public officials were communicating regularly and often in a quorum with other township officials via private email addresses. If OPRA was amended to exclude logs of telephone calls, emails, texts, and the like, public officials could hide communications about public business with impunity. Even more generally, the public must have access to full email logs in order to ferret out corruption, identify conflicts of interest, and identify improper influence. To exempt these documents, these records, would promote the worst kind of secrecy in public affairs and would undermine the public's faith in government. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Morristown, but I'm here also on behalf of the New Jersey Libertarian Party. The New Jersey Libertarian Party opposes A 40445, which seeks to severely limit the access to government records held by the New Jersey agencies. While there are many issues with these bills, I specifically wish to address and suggest amendments that would allow record custodians who knowingly and willfully violate a person's rights under OPRA to escape personal accountability for their actions. As currently written, NJSA 47-1A-11 imposes civil penalties ranging from $1,000 to $5,000 upon custodians or other public officials who knowingly, willfully, and unreasonably deny access to a public record. Under the law as currently written, custodians or public officials who have been found to have willfully violated OPRA are personally liable for the payment of the penalty. This is as it should be, because personal exposure to significant financial penalties is intended to deter public officials from violating the law. Under the proposed bill, however, the civil penalties for willful OPRA violations will be paid by the public agency that employs the custodian. In other words, the proposal will immunize wrongdoing custodians and punish the taxpayers instead. This doesn't make any sense. If this is the direction the legislature wants to go, you might as well simply eliminate the civil penalties for knowing and willful OPRA violations altogether. As the bills are currently written, civil penalties will do nothing more than enrich the state treasury at the taxpayer's expense while doing nothing to deter wrongful conduct. While there are many aspects of the bill that we dislike, we urge you to make these bills a little better by amending them to hold any custodian or official who knowingly, willfully, and unreasonably violates OPRA personally liable for any civil penalties assessed.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Talmy. I'm a regular citizen, and I came here this morning all by myself because I thought this was an emergency. And I see a lot of people around me and in this building and in this room who see this as an emergency as well. By the way, I blew in from Stockton, and I parked a quarter of a mile away and huffed it up here because it was an emergency. And I wanted to just observe the proceedings, but then was asked to read I belong to that scary organization of suburban women. And I was asked to read for Louise Walpin, who is Director of Advocacy and Organizing, Sweep, New Jersey. And Louise asked me to say that she's a resident of South Brunswick, New Township, and is requesting a no vote on A4045 because it guts the OPRA Act, which hampers the strength of those fighting for vulnerable populations. She has had a need to use this when advocating for vulnerable youth and getting access to Board of Education proceedings. This bill would negatively impact her ability to do so. It decreases transparency and it decreases democracy at a time when those of us on the ground are in need for both. Also, there is a question about why this bill is being pushed through so quickly. There are thousands of bills languishing in the legislature which would protect vulnerable populations and our freedoms, and some modifications are needed to the OPRA law. But why is this suddenly happening so quickly now? There have been bills needed to addressing the need to redact information that might be sensitive or that people might use nefariously. A current bill number is A3114, and they've been languishing for quite a while, a decade. So please take the time to make sensible amendments to OPRA. Not gut this, not develop sensible amendments. And please vote no, kill the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next two speakers are Jeffrey Schafter and Betsy Cross. Ken Miley.
I'm a resident of Wall Township. I came here as a taxpayer. I heard about it on Friday, and I made every effort to be here. 100% of this law that you're looking to implement or change, it should be a no vote. I mean, some of the things that you're asking for in this bill, I just think are outrageous. I just had a recent lawsuit, so you can Google Betsy Cross versus Wall Township Board of Education, and my last lawsuit was kind of a landmark one, in that the Board of Education was looking to put, I just find it hard when people are talking. I know, I just find it just really difficult. I'll wait till you're done talking.
Excuse me.
Okay.
You speak to me.
Okay.
I'm the chair. Be careful. Everything's on record. It's okay.
It's very distracting. Okay. And what the judge said was, you can't put documents in a Google folder and then the public can't have access to it. I mean, if everybody just did that, we wouldn't know what was going on. And that's why the metadata was so important. So we could tell that the metadata had been wiped out, the metadata, the information was recopied over. I mean, it was just crazy. So you can look up that case. My prior case before that was Wall Township Board of Ed buying trailers from a company called Mobile Lease, who's still selling trailers to schools and children. And it looked like the electrical and the plumbing inspections were never done right in the pictures. So if we hadn't gotten all that information under OPRA, we would be in a much worse position. Telephone data. James Taylor went to jail. I was the person that looked at the information, asked for his attendance records. If I couldn't get his attendance records, he maybe would still be working there. I don't know. Another thing was his telephone bills. We were paying for a sex chat line for him. $9.99 a month, and it was on the telephone bills. So if I couldn't have gotten the telephone bills, we wouldn't have known that. Wall Municipal was using an illegal third-party administrator for health benefits, and when I OPRA'd the bills, when I called the banking and insurance department, they said, "What? These people can't be handling your insurance." I said, "Well, they are." I said, "I OPRA'd the bills." And they said, "Can you bring them up here?" I said, "Yes." I brought them up on a disc, and the company was shut down, and Joe Rooney, who was our business administrator at the time, he retired. So we get rid of bad people in Wall when they're doing bad things. And if we do not have the opportunity to do this, and people have to hire attorneys on their own, I don't know what's going to happen. But you're opening up guaranteed mail fees, we have it already, official misconduct, gross incompetence, mismanagement, fraudulent practices. And this allows everyday citizens like me to expose corruption. And I've exposed a lot of it in Wall. So, I don't know if my time is up, but I could probably go on all day if I needed to.
It is, but thank you.
So, reach out to me for a lot more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Ken Miser. I'm a resident of Waddellette, and I'm here on behalf of LexisNexis Risk Solutions and as a New Jersey resident. LexisNexis Risk Solutions provides insights that help businesses across multiple industries as well as governmental agencies address risk and improve decisions to benefit people. We understand the burden these requests place on clerks, but this law creates negative, inadvertent consequences for consumers, businesses, and the state and local agencies themselves that rely on record access to enable everyday transactions in New Jersey. I think the first issue here is the broad scope of OPRA records that could be impacted under this law. The OPRA statute defines government records as any paper, written, printed document, book, etc., including data processed or image processed documents and information stored electronically, maintained or kept on file that's been received in the course of official business. According to the FAQ, all the government records are subject to public access unless they're specifically excluded. So for example, a police investigative record is exempted from OPRA, but the conviction data and the court records are not, as an example. And those records, again, are maintained in a digital format, which are subject to OPRA. If you go to the websites to look for that data that have been referenced in some of the conversations here, right, they specifically have OPRA tags attached to them, which indicate that OPRA is a functioning regulation that governs the access to those services. We gather bulk records in order to support multiple agencies and businesses in the state. things like criminal data to support FCRA, pre-employment and volunteer screening, corporation and business registrations to allow for due diligence and access to finance services, UCC filings similar to those, professional licenses, vehicle registration data, accident data, things like that that are used to support very critical consumer-friendly actions. Most of the data that I described above is accessed through automated feeds and do not impose burdens for record reconstruction, copying, and fulfillment. But the scope of the OPRA law would include those records, and the ability of an administrator to decide that a record might no longer be maintained or made available via those electronic records is not clear under the law as it exists. So that broad scope really impacts things. So the example, the Department of Consumer Affairs could decide that the license portal that I mentioned poses a risk of harassment, unwanted solicitation, or lead to a disclosure of a person's personal information. Even though that site today, if I looked at for the license for my electrician in Lavalette, contains only his name and his city. Doesn't contain significant amounts of personal information. So the definition of personal information here is very, very, very broad. Third thing I want to bring up here is that the idea that commercial requesters often serve as filters for the agencies themselves. There were 84,000 real estate closings that took place in New Jersey last year, which by the way was down 27% from the previous year, and approximately 80,000 pre-employment screening checks. If brokers or bulk requesters of access who facilitate that are excluded from this data, you're actually going to have an inadvertent consequence where the record custodians are going to need to deal with those requests all on their own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, I have to go to the Labor Committee, and I appreciate everyone speaking this morning. With that being said, I am a no for this being released. May I be excused?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm just going to read a few more names from their slips. Amber Reed, AAPI, New Jersey, opposed, no need to testify. Scott Campbell, NASW, in favor. Did you want to testify? No. And the last one is Guerrera Hart, New Jersey Coalition on Domestic Violence, opposed, no need to testify. Thank you. That's it. Perfect.
Hello, Chairman, members of the committee. I know I vote in favor of this bill for many reasons. What I think I want to encourage my constituents that they have to really read the whole bill. They know, generally speaking, they go on the method of every bill passed to law is the right law. But in this case, I'm in favor of the bill because the insertions are not limiting anything. They're actually supporting transparency. So as a result, in favor of that, if you look at the bill, it's 29 pages, which when we filter down the insertions, it's only one page. And a lot of that language is already in law, as I recall, on the 29 pages. It's just rhetorically repeating the same thing that's already in law. But with this bill, the insertions are the definition of personal identifiable information. One of the major, this is my major agreement with that. We live in new times, and we're finding hundreds, millions of personal identifiers all over the internet this bill from that standpoint. So, you know, I want to go on to another bill that's similar to this one. As you recall, Daniel's Law, a judge was murdered because the use of his name and address was used. It's very similar here. This bill actually gives that same protection to the citizens, whereas Daniel's Law only gives it to a certain class of people, which is retired lawyers, police officers, and judge. I think this would be an incredible improvement when you take in the fact that you eliminate the personal identifiers from all agencies for certain records, mostly police records. But again, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So seriously, without any biasm, I think the majority of the people, I agree with them, but this bill inserts none of what they're talking about. It inserts pretty much the personal definition of personal identifiable information, which names, actual. So I'm in favor of this bill, just as Daniel's Law protects the safety of the lawyers, the police. We should pass on that safety to the constituents of New Jersey, residents of New Jersey. So I ask you please to be in favor of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another person to testify, Aaron Cruz Morales. And Frank Marshall.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Aaron Cruz. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager at the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. On behalf of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, I want to express our strong opposition for this bill, 84045. The New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice is the state's largest immigration coalition, spanning over 55 member organizations to fight for policies that empower and protect New Jersey's immigrant communities. It would be impossible to fulfill our organizational mission without a strong, fully accessible, transparent, and timely Open Records Act. The Alliance and other advocates rely on public records to ensure our community rights are upheld and that we receive our fair share in resources, services, and programs. When we have worked with the legislature to secure major wins for our immigrant communities, including driver's licenses for all, a ban on local contracts for federal immigration detention centers, and the state's first ever language access plan. Over the year, it is through OPRA that NJAIJ and our members have fought information about immigrant and customs enforcement agreements with local enforcement authorities, ICE detention contracts with counties and private prisons in New Jersey, language barriers at state agencies who provide direct services to the public, records of training for local and state law enforcement to comply with state sanctuary laws, receipt of outreach applications, materials, and direct assistance paid for the Excluded New Jerseyans Fund, and so much more. Bill 84045 would undermine the work that we have done with the legislature to ensure communities have access to information, resources, programs, and the rights that we have fought so hard to win. We are in complete opposition to the bill and are requesting, and we're encouraging you to vote no on this proposal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Frank Marshall. I'm with the New Jersey State League of Municipalities, and on behalf of the officers and the executive board of the league, I'm here today to express strong support for S2930 and A4045, which makes various reforms to OPRA. While the league and our members, we believe in open and transparent government, and that citizens and residents must be informed about the workings of government to participate in democracy. We've seen a lot of misconceptions and misinformation about this legislation since it's been introduced. This bill does not hinder a resident or a news reporter from using OPRA to access public records. Under the bill, if a resident submits an OPRA request for emails between the construction official or code enforcement officer regarding a property violation, the resident would still receive those emails. Under the bill, if a reporter were to submit an OPRA request for a copy of a professional service contract, the law currently as it is, and would be amendment under A4045, would still allow that request and require that that information be given to the reporter. Many of the stories that we've heard here today about news reports or anything that has happened under the law as A4045 would have it, those stories could still have been written. There's nothing that changes what was done prior to now. So, what does change under this bill is protections to citizens' personal information that currently did not exist, but were recommended by the Privacy Study Commission in 2004. When OPRA was enacted by the sponsors and then Governor recognized the importance of residents' privacy. It was the legislative intent as made clear by the declaration section of the law that says, and I'll quote, "A public agency has a responsibility and an obligation to safeguard from public access a citizen's personal information with which it has been entrusted when disclosure thereof would violate the citizen's reasonable expectation of privacy." While privacy was always meant to be protected, the law did not truly address this concern. So the legislator impounded that Privacy Study Commission. That included representatives from the Press Association, ACLU, Municipal Clerk, the Education, NJEA, FOP, retired Superior Court judges, journalists, victim witness advocate, and also the League. It was tasked with studying the privacy issues and the coalition, and it created a report that was sent to the governor and to the legislature. The bill before the committee today, it implements many of those recommendations. First, the commission suggested that home addresses and home telephone numbers, including cell phones, should not be disclosed. It further suggested that in the future, computer systems and applications should be programmed to collect but not disclose home addresses and telephone numbers. Again, leading us to the protection of individual privacy. Looking back, OPRA was enacted at a time when the internet was, when dial-up internet, mind you, was cutting edge. Google was in its infancy, and identity theft was your sibling borrowing your driver's license to get into the bar. Today, these have changed. I see I'm out of time, but one of the main things that we see here and one of the things that the League supports is also the burdensome commercial requests that continue to plague the municipalities, which come at a cost of time and resources, which we'd like to see curtailed. We have written comments that we've submitted, so I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next person is Suni Vargas.
I'll be super quick, I know we're all tired. I want to thank the chairman and committee members for taking the time to hear from us. My name is Sunny Vargas, and I'm here representing Communication Workers of America. We have 70,000 workers in New Jersey, 35 of which being state workers. I want to testify against the bill A405, and we strongly oppose this bill and urge the committee to reconsider the speed at which this bill is moving forward. Keep this brief and mirror my fellow labor brothers and sisters who already spoke, but we have grave concerns about the sweeping changes to the legislation that would make to OPRA, severely limiting public access to government records, and public information. Our biggest issue is the rush nature of the process. These extensive reforms require a thoughtful and deliberate process that gives labor unions and other stakeholders appropriate time to review and give input. We simply just have not had the time to properly review the language of the bill. It was introduced just last Monday with language publicly available the following day. We need more time to discuss this language with our membership, those of which who actively process OPRA requests, so that we can help form meaningful amendments to the legislation. Just to be real quick, I think it contains several provisions that weaken the ability of members of the public. We also represent members who frequently file OPRA requests, as I've said, and just as frequently use OPRA in our collective bargaining work. This bill expands the already extensive list of exceptions and places additional obstacles in the path of the public to obtain government records. So we just really appeal lawmakers to vote no on this bill or to take it out of committee. I'll submit a copy of my public testimony, and we did prepare some additional amendments that we'd like to submit as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just to read another slip in, Bill Caruso, New Jersey Conference of Mayors, in favor, no need to testify.
At this point, Chairman, if there are no other comments, I make a motion that we release the bill.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion to amend and release A 4045. Assemblywoman Swift has left a vote in the negative. Assemblyman Simonson has left a vote in the negative. Assemblyman Allen?
Chairman, is now an appropriate time to make a very brief statement on this matter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I realized I was preparing some statements as I was observing the testimony today, and I realized the order in which I wrote those comments, I may be burying the lead, so I don't want to do that. To be clear, the bill in its current format does not have my support, and if it were to go to a floor vote, I would be a no vote. With that said, I hear you. I agree with many of the concerns articulated in the testimony today. The vote to release this bill is not the end of the process, far from it. Revising and updating OPRA is not mutually exclusive with protecting OPRA. My colleagues and I are committed to safeguarding transparency while also modernizing OPRA. The bill sponsor is aware of these concerns, and as this bill moves to appropriations, I'm confident additional amendments to address the concerns heard today will be made before there's ever a floor vote. And I'll close with how I started. To be clear, the bill in its current format does not have my support, and if there is a floor vote without amendments, I would vote no. Thank you. With that said, I vote yes, Chairman.
Boo. Please.
Assemblywoman McCann-Stamata?
Yes.
Assemblywoman Hall?
I vote that after hearing this morning, I do have some concerns about the bill. I did hear you this morning. I have some concerns about us really understanding what the bill is saying and what we need to change. I will vote yes to move it to committee, but with consideration of the amendments and the changes based on what I've heard this morning.
Vice Chairwoman Swain?
I'm going to vote to release the bill so that further discussions can occur. I've heard that there are additional amendments, and that's as a reflection of what we've heard today. So I thank everyone for all of their testimony, and I vote to release the bill.
Chairman Karlovic?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank everybody for their testimony and all of their points that they brought up during this long situation regarding this bill. Obviously, it's extremely important that we hear it. Obviously, I heard some of the committee, the assemblymen and women responding to this. And I know that there will be amendments to this bill. However, there was things that weren't brought up today that should be part of the record. There's over hundreds of thousands of requests every year, every single year. Nobody brought up how many there are, but there are. One department, 250,000 requests. Last year alone, last year. So when we talk about unintended consequences of the way the bill is today, OPRA is today, that's an unintended consequence, because nobody, when they envisioned having a transparent government, that it was going to be abused, have ambiguous requests, frivolous requests, whatever you want to name it. That's not what the intent of the OPRA was for. The reason this is coming up is to try to continue that level of transparency. But as we all know, that the OPRA has so many levels of government that it addresses. Whether it's the free press, I know you're shaking your head, but it's the free press. All the way down to the individual asking about something in their own town. That's there. I'm one, and I'm sure a lot of people here, legislators, believe in technology. It changes and it's going to change dramatically this year alone. Do I believe that more stuff should be put online by our 565 towns in this state? 565. That's what's being addressed and what we're talking about today. Do I think more should be put online? Absolutely. Is this trying to hide or curtail any of the abuses that go on in government all over regarding whose party it is? No, I don't want to see that ever happen. Because those bad players should be put to where they are and held accountable. Absolutely. However, the custodians, that to me is a little different. For them to be personally responsible, when we have other people that are not personally responsible, that they have to defend themselves if they did something wrong, whether it was intended or not intended. Again, no disrespect to anybody that's looking into this. I think that has to change too. Again, there's so many things in this bill that are addressing so many different issues, and so many people here spoke about individual issues specific, and other ones, as I said, on the 40,000-foot level, that they don't want to blow up OPRA. Well, I think OPRA has to change with the times, just like we all change with the times. There's so much now on this. Your phone. 10 years ago it wasn't like this. 15 years ago it wasn't like this. 20 years ago definitely wasn't like this. So, in my opinion, there's been so many things that still have to be addressed, and I think that they will be. But we need you to talk about more of the details in the bill to change the language here. We need your input. Not that I just don't want it.
You're rushing to get it done with.
This isn't a debate. This is my comments. This is my comments. Respectfully. I sat and listened to you for everybody for 2 hours, and I never ever said anything about what I did not agree with. I'm here asking for your input on a different level now, in the detail. Tell me what line doesn't work. Tell me what line. Please, some of you, Charlie, please. Put it in writing to me. Put it in, talk to the prime sponsor. Because that's what this is about.
Yeah,
so with that, I'm going to say yes, we're going to move the bill.
Bam.
So that's it.
Bill's released.
Okay, thank you.